Retirement is supposed to be the reward that you get after decades of hard work, but what if some of the assumptions you make along the way about what retirement's going to look like are off? What if they're wrong? I'm going to expose 3 wrong assumptions that people make about retirement so that you can avoid them and plan more successfully. That and more coming up. You want to have a confident retirement. You want to have a successful retirement. And in order to do so, you need to plan ahead. And planning ahead isn't about seeing the future. It is about making some assumptions, though, along the way. The right assumptions can lead to the right planning and can set you up for success. You know, there's 5 factors to your retirement, to everyone's retirement. These are interrelated factors and decisions that you get to make, but ultimately you're making assumptions about each of these. What age do you want to be done? Yeah, I'd like to be done at 65 or 62 or 67 or 70, something like that. Age, when do you want to be done and how long is retirement going to last? That's the first one. Retirement spending, how much do you think you'll spend in retirement? Not just for your normal day-to-day living, but also for taxes and health insurance and vacations and one-time expenses. So lifestyle or spending is the second assumption or second factor. Third is income, retirement income sources. This is where you're going to optimize Social Security and look at other retirement income sources. How much do you have saved up? What are your savings? And how much are you going to be saving each year throughout your career to get there, to achieve your retirement goal? And then how much risk are you comfortable taking with those savings? Are you comfortable taking a lot of risk during your career right now? Will that risk adjust as you get closer or into retirement? Those are the 5 factors. They're interrelated. You make a decision in one, it's going to impact your choices in the other. But during your career, you're making assumptions. You're making assumptions that, yeah, I think we'll spend this much. I think I'll want to delay Social Security until this point, or I think I want to draw Social Security right away. I think I'll be comfortable taking this risk level. The right assumptions lead to the right planning, lead to the right outcome in a successful and confident retirement. So what if you make errant assumptions? What if you're making poor assumptions or wrong assumptions? I'm going to expose 3. I'm going to share 3 wrong assumptions that people commonly make about retirement that influence their planning. The first is that healthcare will be your largest expense in retirement. Not necessarily. For most people, it's taxes. And that's why we emphasize so much about the need for proactive tax planning. Think about it. What is the expense that you pay every single year that almost goes like, it's not a budget item, it's just there in the background and it's just this necessity? Death and taxes, like those are the 2 certainties in life. And so if you actually look at taxes as an expense, which is what it is, it's drawing out of your purchasing power, it's taking dollars out of your income or out of your assets and having to go towards Uncle Sam. If you take that approach and treat it like an expense, you'll start looking at, well, is there a way for me to manage the taxes that I'm going to pay? If you wait until the last minute and you get into retirement and you realize, oh my goodness, yeah, my tax bill was 15 grand this year between federal and state taxes. That's a lot, or it was 22 grand or whatever it is. If you wait until the last minute, your options or your ways to manage and reduce that expense, that line item, are going to be limited. You should still do that work with your CFP to, on an ongoing basis, look at your tax planning choices. But throughout your career, if you take a long view of this, then that's going to help you plan ahead. And it's going to limit this large expense, maybe the largest expense for most people. It's going to limit it and mean your retirement is even more successful. So throughout your career, on an ongoing basis, should you be funding your 401k, your retirement accounts pre-tax or Roth? Should you be maxing out that HSA? Should you then shoebox your HSA? Talk about that strategy all the time. What about backdoor Roth, mega backdoor Roth? If you are saving outside of a tax shelter, how can you do so in the most tax efficient way? Having that proactive planning approach for your taxes can help limit and manage this likely largest expense you're going to have in retirement. Now, to be fair, healthcare expenses is likely to be in the top 3. And if you need assisted living or long-term care or home health care at some point in your career, it very well could catapult to your largest expense. So it's critical that you're planning ahead for that expense as well, and that you're working with a competent and helpful health insurance expert. You're aware of your Medicare choices. That's the biggest health insurance decision you're going to make in your life. And then you have an ongoing collaborative relationship with your CFP who's working with that health insurance agent, health insurance advisor to ensure you've got the right coverage and you're managing risk appropriately as well. Second errant assumption people make about retirement is that you need to own more bonds than stocks. No. For most people, that is not the case. And I get the idea that this would be appropriate or conventional wisdom. In retirement, you need income. And stocks don't pay a lot of income. I just did a video on that about how the dividend yield is at almost record lows, the second lowest level in history for stocks. And you need income. Bonds pay interest. I'm going to invest in bonds. Here's the thing. Also in retirement, you need to fight inflation. You need to fight inflation. Your retirement isn't going to last just a couple years. It's going to last a couple of decades. And the biggest risk that you face isn't just market volatility. It's the erosion of your purchasing power. You've got to be able to fight inflation. So I would argue that you need both. And a big errant assumption that people make is when I get to retirement, I need to be done with stocks or I need to significantly reduce the amount of stocks that I hold. No, you need a system, an investment strategy that aligns your investment risk for when you're going to need the money so that you can both have the income that you need right now, that's your short-term buckets and intermediate-term buckets, but also fight inflation for the long term, for the dollars you're not going to touch for 10 plus years. Those dollars should stay aggressively invested for your own risk tolerance. Work with your certified financial planner on that to avoid this errant assumption. And then the final errant assumption that we hear people say all the time, this one is extremely common. I'll spend less money in retirement. I'll spend less money in retirement. And that assumption could be the most dangerous of them all. Because like I said, there's 5 factors, they're interrelated, that determine whether you're on track for a confident retirement. And if you state, you know what, I don't think I'll spend that much in retirement, and therefore that second variable you plan on spending a much smaller amount, your retirement plan is going to show that you're on track. You don't need to save up as much. You don't need to take as much investment risk. You can retire early. It's going to give you a lot of positive signs when in fact, you might actually not spend at that lower levels. Typically, your retirement is broken up into 3 spending stages: the go-go years, the slow-go years, and the no-go years. And these aren't symmetrical. They're not even. And yet, early in retirement, when you're young and healthy, I was just having this conversation with a client this week. They just did a big European cruise and they want to go on another extravagant excursion. And he's trying to say, yeah, I want to do it, but let's wait until next year, until cash flow. But he told me, he said, we're young, we're healthy. We should do these things right now while we still can. And absolutely. So here's the thing. You've got to bake that into your planning. You don't assume that you're just going to spend less in retirement just because you need to, or you think that will make your plan work. I would actually assume that you spend even more. Here's a quick test. Right now, during your career, do you tend to spend more money on Tuesday than you do on Saturday? No. You might say, that's a ridiculous question. This is my go-to question. Well, you tend to spend more money on Saturdays, right, than Tuesdays, because Saturdays, you've got a lot of freedom with your time. You want to go do something. You want to go to the movies. You want to go golfing. You want to go out to eat. You want to do those sorts of things on Tuesdays are just Tuesdays, right? You're going to work. You're not doing that much. Well, retirement is going to be 6 Saturdays and a Sunday. It's not, so you're going to have a lot more flexibility with your time, and you're likely going to spend even more than you think. Make sure that you've got an accurate number in for that spending variable, that second variable, so that you can get an accurate and competent output about whether you're on track for retirement. The point is, in order to have a successful and confident retirement, you've got to make great assumptions, okay? So what are the assumptions that you're making that are feeding into your financial plan that are either giving you a false positive, a false sense of security that you're on track, or maybe that you can enhance to ensure that you're planning appropriately and that you actually do get to retirement, those golden years, and are confident and successful. Work with your certified financial planner on that. Build out that 5-factor retirement plan. You can go to wisemoneyguides.com right now to get started and starting to talk through and work through some of those variables, and then work with your certified financial planner to build out that confident plan and work through those assumptions. If you don't have a CFP on your team, you can contact one on my team. Find us online, Korhorn.com. That's Korhorn with K. wisemoneyshow.com. You can find us there as well, or give us a call, 574-247-5898. All right, there you have it. Go out and take your next wise step in your financial life.